You knew
57
exactly
houses.
what you were
I
doing.
counted
This
every single
entire
one they put
situation
up on my
is your
stolen land,
fault.
and I
That
let
is
them
not
finish
true. I was
every
following
last
orders.
roof tile right down to the mailbox. You ever watched your whole family history get bulldozed before sunrise? Because that's what it looked like. Yellow machines tearing up pasture where 4 generations of Whitmore hands raised cattle and kids in hope. House after house popping up like overpriced weeds, diesel fumes and fresh concrete suffocating the grass that fed our herd for 100 years. That's progress, apparently. Progress with a clipboard and a Tesla and a 1,000-watt smile. Every morning there she was, Vivian Ashford Cross, standing in the dust, with her white Tesla parked so clean it looked afraid to get dirty, orchestrating this construction circus like she was some suburban Napoleon. HOA president. Stole my 340-acre ranch out from under me while I was busy burying my parents. Yeah, let that one sink in. First time she waved at me, I nearly laughed. Thanks for being so reasonable about progress, she called, as if I'd rolled over and offered her the keys to the family cemetery. Folks said I looked broken, sitting on my porch watching strangers build dreams on my grandfather's grave. Even my sister, even my lawyer, even Sheriff Kane. They all thought Ezra Whitmore was just waiting to die with his dignity. But here's the thing, I wasn't broken, I was patient. See, what they forgot was I still controlled the 80-year-old dam upstream. And out here, timing is everything, so what would you do in my boots? Go on, drop your location in the comments. I'll wait. But I'm getting ahead of myself. This story isn't about patience, it's about playing the long game, and how one old rancher can outlast a whole HOA armed with lawyers and lies. 6 months earlier, back when I still woke up expecting the world to make sense, this whole war started with a knock on my door and the smell of perfume that cost more than a month's cattle feed. That's when Vivian sashayed into my life, me still shaking off the dirt from feeding calves. Whitmore Ranch. 340 acres of stubborn Colorado land. Land that didn't just belong to us, we belonged to it. My great-granddad staked this ground in 1889, built the federal dam during World War II, part of a big Army Corps project that kept Denver dry every spring since before color TV. You could still smell concrete and oil ghosts on the spillway in humid weather, like old government handshakes refusing to fade. Then my folks died last January, black ice on Highway 34. That's what grief tastes like, by the way, black coffee and regret, sipped on the porch at 5:30, staring at a Rocky Mountain sunrise that don't care if you're broken. That left me and Dela, my sister, trying to keep the place alive with more land than money and a dam system so old the Army might come knocking to check if it's still holding. Dela's a schoolteacher, tough as a socket wrench, twice divorced with all of Mom's common sense and Dad's legendary Norwegian stubbornness. Then came the villain. Vivian Ashford Cross. Moved to Pine Ridge Falls late December. Former Denver corporate lawyer, highlights worth more than my Silverado, a white Tesla that purred like a house cat when it wasn't eating my ranch. She became HOA president before her moving boxes even hit the recycling bin. That should have been the first clue that democracy was dead. February. Vivian starts haunting county meetings. On her third appearance, she stands up presentation slicker than a used car pitch. Commissioners, I'm here to discuss an environmental emergency. Her voice, sticky sweet, could make cancer sound like a vacation. She's got graph soil contamination reports my ranch looking like the Chernobyl sequel. Supposedly our cattle were poisoning the watershed pastures, eroding into Willow Creek, threatening 23,000 innocent suburban souls. Commissioner Torrance, who, funny enough, just got free golf lessons from Vivian's husband, nods like his head's spring-loaded. Emergency zoning, she declared. 48 hours, no public comment, no defense. I didn't even get time to call my lawyer, much less show up. Community safety. That's how they sell it. But always demand to see the actual evidence. Most emergencies are manufactured out of thin air and ambition. March 1st, certified mail arrives, boundary dispute resolution, like calling the Titanic a pool maintenance issue. Next morning, Vivian herself shows up, flanked by surveyors, legal papers, and a sheriff's deputy who'd clearly rather be fishing. Mr. Whitmore, she called, clipboard raised like a weapon. I hope we can handle this like civilized adults. Ma'am, I said, tipping my hat. What exactly are we handling? Her smile went colder than my porch in January. Your family's had a good run, but progress requires sacrifice. This land serves the greater community good now. My granddad's calm settled over me like fog. Progress, I thought, or theft with a law degree. The war officially started March 15th, 5 bulldozers, 2 excavators, a whole crew rolling past my kitchen window before I'd even finished my first mug of coffee. Vivian was there, dressed for demolition and boots so clean she could have checked her lipstick in the shine. "Good morning, Mr. Whitmore." She actually waved like we were old friends. I almost admired it, the sheer audacity. Like admiring a rattlesnake's confidence before it strikes. Sheriff Kane showed up later, hat in his hands. "Ezra, you know I don't like this any more than you do." "Then stop it," I said. "Can't." "County says it's a civil matter." He spit in the dirt. My hands are tied tighter than a calf at branding. By noon, they'd torn up the very pasture where I learned to ride, scraped away 4 generations of sweat, and stories turned it to mud. Next blow came from the Pine Ridge Gazette local Rancher Blocks community development. Reporter never called me, just ran Vivian's PR, painted me as the selfish dinosaur standing in the way of affordable housing. Quote of the week: "It's time for the old ways to make room for the new. Like feeding people is just a hobby." But see, Della's a teacher. She does her homework. She spent spring break in the courthouse basement, digging through old paper, found land grant documents nobody'd seen since disco. Turns out our property line ran 60 feet further than Vivian's expert survey. But the real treasure, the dam and water rights, separate from the land. And in Colorado, water law is first in time, first in right. Whoever's got first use keeps it, doesn't matter who owns the dirt. That's how you win in the West. Called up Tommy Chainlink McGrath, Dad's old Army buddy. Civil engineer, veteran legend. "Ezra, you mean you've got a 1943 federal dam, son? You don't just own water. You control everything downstream." That's when the plan took shape. Those 57 houses, every last one sat in the flood path of Willow Creek, and I held the keys to the gates. April brought Vivian's next weapon, character assassination by Facebook. Suddenly, 300 concerned parents filled up the safety group, all panicking about ranch contamination. None of them had ever seen a cow up close. Then came the town meetings, pamphlets, graphs, parents whipped into a frenzy. "We have documented evidence," Vivian intoned, waving reports from a lab owned by her husband's company. Funny how that works. The real bacteria problem was a busted septic tank 3 miles upstream, but try explaining that to parents on a mission. Economic siege followed. Rusty's Diner lost half its business. Anderson Grain jacked up my feed prices. Della got grilled by the PTA. Even the legal system joined in 23 minutes in court, and Judge Caldwell slapped me with a restraining order. Couldn't visit my own family cemetery. But Della kept digging. Tommy combed over the building permits and found every house was actually built for commercial luxury rentals, not family homes. Massive zoning violation, completely intentional, buried in paperwork. Then came the federal twist. Della unearthed my grandfather's Army Corps contract. Not just a dam, a federal flood control system with seasonal release requirements, non-negotiable, dating back to 1943. May snowmelt, required full water release, no exceptions. Every house built illegally in a federal flood zone, no insurance, no FEMA notification, nothing. One wrong move and the whole place could be condemned. So the countdown began. Federal regs said water must flow May 23rd, right before Memorial Day, which is exactly when Vivian wanted families to move in. What do you do knowing you can either flood empty houses or wait and watch innocent families lose their life savings? That question kept me up at night. May brought the final storm. Private security SUVs, helicopter surveillance, Vivian's empire crumbling, paranoia rising. My bank accounts frozen by another emergency court order. Sabotage at night, sugar and gas tanks, fences cut, Della's car windows smashed. But then came Helena Cortez, our unlikely hero, 73 years old, master of bureaucratic espionage. She smuggled us Vivian's bank documents. Turns out the Crosses were mortgaged up to their eyeballs. Every delay pushed them closer to financial ruin. Rebecca Morrison, investigative reporter, joined the fray. Federal investigators, environmental lawsuits prepped. FBI circling for insurance fraud. Vivian selling policies that didn't even cover federal flood releases. May 23rd. Dawn. Me and Tommy standing by the dam, hands on steel pins older than most of the town. Federal flood control requirements, I muttered. Tommy, seasonal water management. We pulled the pins. The roar started slow, then built to a thunder you could feel in your chest, 10 feet of snowmelt charging down Willow Creek straight through Sunset Meadows. Rebecca's cameras caught every second. Water swallowing Tesla's mailboxes, for sale signs, no lives at risk, every safety measure planned, every law followed. Vivian showed up splashing through creek water, screaming sabotage. But this was justice. Federal law, not revenge. That night, the emergency town meeting was standing room only. I stood with the Army Corps manual in one hand, topographical maps in the other, and read the section about mandatory seasonal releases. The crowd went silent. Then one person clapped, then another, until the room shook with applause. Water doesn't read HOA bylaws, I told Vivian, but it sure follows federal law. FBI agents stepped up, handcuffs shining under fluorescent lights. Vivian and Preston arrested for fraud, corruption, conspiracy. Caldwell disbarred before she could even pack her office. A year later, Vivian's doing 18 months in federal prison. Preston got 2 years. Our land restored, protected, Whitmore name cleared. The diner's busier than ever. Rusty keeps telling everyone the coffee tastes like justice. The old house is torn down, rebuilt as a water education center for kids to learn what real stewardship means. Tommy started consulting on historical dam restoration. Rebecca won journalism awards. Dela's scholarship fund is helping the next generation of environmental law students. But the real victory, quiet mornings, coffee on the porch, sunrise over the Rockies, the sound of Willow Creek running clear and free, truth still seeks its level. Justice, when channeled right, can move mountains, or at least sweep away the rot that's built up in their shadow. And if you made it this far, let me ask, what would you have done? Would you flood empty houses to save families, or wait and watch them lose everything? Is justice a force of nature or something? We make one hard decision at a time. Drop your thoughts, your stories, your own battles with power and greed right down below. Let's see where the real flood of truth takes us.